Welcome to Soralaw, where we unravel the darkest and most complex mysteries that haunt seemingly peaceful lives. Today we bring you a tale from Fargo, North Dakota, a tale of ambition, love, betrayal, and a cold-blooded murder that left a community in shock. This is the story of Dr. William Huxley, a respected dentist whose life was tragically cut short in a brutal crime that seemed to have no clear motive. What drove a man known for his kindness and dedication to become the target of such a horrific act? Join us as we explore the chilling events leading up to that fateful day, uncovering secrets that reveal just how twisted human relationships can become. William Huxley was a well-respected and beloved figure in his community. At 49 years old, he had built a successful career as a dentist, running his own practice for the past 7 years. His patients adored him, often praising his calming demeanor and gentle approach that made even the most anxious visitors feel at ease. William's older brother, Richard, described him as a big softy, a man who was always polite, friendly, and willing to lend a listening ear. To those who knew him, William was more than just a dentist. He was a friend, a confidant, and a pillar of the community. But behind his warm smile and professional success, William had faced his share of personal challenges. After earning his degree in biological sciences in Louisiana, he initially pursued a career in dentistry, eventually marrying his first wife, Carol. Together, they had 2 sons, William Jr. and David. But the pressures of his career and personal differences led to the dissolution of their marriage. In the early 2000s, William decided to relocate to Oklahoma City to further his education and take some additional courses that would help him run his own practice. It was during this time that William met Valerie, a music-loving waitress with a passion for jazz, cooking, and travel. Their connection was immediate, and they quickly fell in love. By 2001, they were married, and 2 years later, William had achieved his dream of taking over a dental practice in Fargo. The couple moved into a beautiful condo on South University Drive and welcomed their daughter, Kennedy, shortly thereafter. However, their happiness was short-lived. Valerie began experiencing severe heart problems during her pregnancy, and her condition worsened after Kennedy's birth. She was diagnosed with a heart condition that required surgery to repair a mitral valve. Unfortunately, the surgery led to serious complications. Valerie was placed in a medically induced coma and remained hospitalized for 9 months, battling organ failure, blood infections, and multiple strokes. William was devastated. He tried to balance his responsibilities at the dental practice with the growing demands of Valerie's medical care. The couple's families clashed over where Valerie should receive treatment, with her parents insisting that she stay in Oklahoma City, where they lived and where a specialist could oversee her care. William, after doing extensive research, believed that a local hospital in Fargo would give her the best chance of survival and a possible heart transplant. In the end, Valerie and Kennedy moved to Oklahoma City to live with Valerie's parents, Jean and Sharon Kirkpatrick. William was heartbroken by the separation but knew it was the best decision for Valerie's care. He continued to visit as often as he could, despite the financial strain of managing a mortgage, mounting medical bills, and the demands of his practice. Tragically, Valerie passed away just 2 years after Kennedy was born. William was left to pick up the pieces of his shattered life, now solely responsible for raising their daughter. Friends recalled how William threw himself into being the best father he could be, even as he privately grieved for Valerie. He shielded Kennedy from his pain, creating a routine that included coloring and games before breakfast, work at the practice, and movie nights when Kennedy came home from daycare. October 26, 2009, was supposed to be another ordinary day for Dr. William Huxley. He dropped Kennedy off at daycare at 8:30 a.m., just like any other day, before heading back to his condo for a 10:30 a.m. conference call. William had been making plans to scale back his working hours to spend more time with Kennedy, and this call was part of the transition process. But William never made it to that conference call. Almost 12 hours later, at just after 7 p.m., Julie Willett, a close friend of both William and Valerie, received an unexpected call from Kennedy's daycare. Kennedy was still there, waiting to be picked up, and no one had been able to reach William all afternoon. Alarmed, Julie immediately knew something was wrong. William was a dedicated father who had never failed to pick up his daughter on time. Worried that William might have fallen or had an accident at home, Julie rushed to his condo with a neighbor. They found the doors and windows locked, but the neighbor managed to climb over the fence and enter the garage through the back door. Inside, they discovered a shocking scene. The condo had been ransacked, with drawers pulled out, photo frames and paintings knocked off the walls, and furniture overturned. There was no sign of William, but the absence of his silver Porsche Boxster was immediately noticeable. Julie tentatively approached the master bedroom, calling out William's name, but was met with an eerie silence. When she entered the room, she found William lying on the floor, his head surrounded by a pool of blood. The sight was so horrifying that Julie later described it as an out-of-body experience. She remembered dialing 911 but couldn't recall much else as shock set in. Within minutes, police, ambulances, and local media swarmed the scene. Kennedy spent that night with Julie and her husband, oblivious to the tragedy that had just befallen her family. She asked repeatedly when her father was coming to get her, unaware that her life had just been irreversibly changed. As the investigation began, police contacted William's family, but most of them lived out of state and couldn't arrive immediately. Valerie's parents, Jean and Sharon Kirkpatrick, were also informed of the murder. The Kirkpatricks were devastated by the news, especially given that it came so soon after losing their daughter. They immediately began making plans to drive the nearly 900 miles to Fargo to pick up Kennedy. From the start, the crime scene baffled investigators. The condo had been completely ransacked, leading police to initially believe that the motive was robbery. However, as they delved deeper, they realized that something about the crime didn't add up. The level of violence inflicted on William suggested a more personal motive. The autopsy revealed that he had been bludgeoned to death with a heavy object, likely a hammer, receiving at least 10 fatal blows to the head. The fractures were so severe that the medical examiner described his skull as resembling shattered glass. Adding to the mystery was the fact that there were no signs of forced entry. No windows were broken, and the locks were intact, leading police to theorize that William might have known his killer. Whoever committed the crime had spent a significant amount of time inside the condo, carefully selecting items to steal and ensuring that they wouldn't be interrupted. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, but none of William's neighbors had seen or heard anything unusual that morning. However, the proximity of the condo to several shops, restaurants, and a bowling alley offered some hope that surveillance footage might provide clues. Their first lead came from a security camera at the bowling alley across the street. The footage showed a dark pickup truck with a trailer pulling into the parking lot at 7:30 a.m., just hours before William's body was discovered. The truck parked facing the road, and no one exited the vehicle for several minutes. The owner of the bowling alley found this odd, noting that the alley didn't open until 11 a.m., and there were only a few other cars in the lot, none of which belonged to customers. 16 minutes later, the truck's lights flashed, and a figure emerged, walking toward William's condo. Another camera captured the person moving quickly, sticking to the shadows as they made their way behind buildings. Although the footage was grainy, detectives could tell that the figure was likely at 10:46 a.m. A vehicle resembling William's silver Porsche was seen driving away from the area. Whoever was behind the wheel had to be William's killer. The car drove into the parking lot of an apartment building just beyond the bowling alley. Minutes later, the pickup truck and trailer, now with the Porsche in tow, followed in the same direction. By 11:30 a.m., both vehicles had left the area, driving in the opposite direction. The breakthrough came when a resident at the apartment building contacted investigators. She recalled seeing a dark pickup truck with a silver Porsche attached to the trailer that morning. Curiosity piqued, she had made an excuse to walk past the vehicles, pretending to throw out trash so she could get a closer look. The man loading the Porsche onto the trailer was middle-aged, with a scruffy beard and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. When she commented on the car, he responded without turning around, claiming he was just moving it for a guy who bought it on eBay. Her description of the man and the truck led police to review footage from nearby businesses. A black pickup with a U-Haul trailer and a man matching the witness's description appeared in several clips. One particularly sharp-eyed witness at a rest stop 20 minutes away recognized the man immediately. He had seen the truck and trailer pull up, with the Porsche covered by a tarp. The man had been focused on making sure the car was completely concealed. When the witness struck up a conversation, the man was evasive, muttering something about eBay before heading into the rest stop with a plastic bag. The witness noticed a red stain on the man's trousers but thought nothing of it at the time. Surveillance cameras inside the rest stop confirmed the story. The man was seen entering the restroom and emerged a few minutes later in a different outfit, new jeans and a t-shirt. Outside, the cameras captured the truck and trailer driving away, with the Porsche now fully covered. Crucially, the footage also provided the first clear view of the man's face and a partial license plate on the truck. On October 31st, just 5 days after William's murder, police announced that they had made an arrest. The truck had been rented by Michael Norrington, a man with a long criminal history, including convictions for rape, kidnapping, home invasions, and armed robbery. Norrington had recently been released from prison after serving only 8 years of a 20-year sentence. He now worked as a handyman, doing odd jobs around town. His name meant nothing to William's family or friends, and there was no apparent connection between him and the dentist. However, when police searched a storage unit rented by Norrington, they found William's stolen Porsche, along with most of the items taken from his condo. Inside the car was the murder weapon, a hammer with William's blood and hair on it. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Norrington remained silent during questioning. The case took a shocking turn when police interviewed Norrington's mother, who revealed a connection between her son and Gene Kirkpatrick, Valerie's father. Norrington had been working as a handyman for the Kirkpatricks, and it quickly became apparent that this was no random robbery. Gene Kirkpatrick, it seemed, had orchestrated a murder-for-hire plot, targeting William for reasons that soon became horrifyingly clear. Gene Kirkpatrick had never fully accepted William as part of the family. After Valerie's death, he blamed William for her illness, believing that his son-in-law had failed to provide the care she needed. Gene's resentment only grew as he watched William raise Kennedy. He became obsessed with gaining full custody of his granddaughter, convinced that William was an unfit father who would ruin Kennedy's life. In the months leading up to the murder, Gene had repeatedly pressured William to agree to a custody arrangement that would give the Kirkpatricks control over Kennedy's upbringing. When William refused, Gene's anger reached a boiling point. According to friends and family, Gene began making disturbing comments about how he wished William were out of the picture, so that Kennedy could be raised properly. These comments were initially dismissed as idle venting, but it soon became clear that Gene was serious. In the interview room, under pressure from investigators, Gene confessed to his involvement in the murder plot. He admitted that he had hired Michael Norrington to kill William, promising him $3,000 upfront, with a promise of $10,000 more after the job was done. Gene also allowed Norrington to keep whatever he could steal from William's home, including the Porsche. Gene had even provided Norrington with a video tour of William's condo, pointing out where valuable items were kept and giving him instructions on how to avoid detection. Gene's cold and calculated planning shocked everyone who knew him, but he tried to downplay his role in the murder. He claimed that he had only vented to Norrington about his frustrations with William and that Norrington had taken it upon himself to act. But as the evidence mounted, Gene began to backtrack, admitting that he had indeed given Norrington the green light to carry out the murder. He expressed some remorse, particularly when he considered how Kennedy would view him when she learned the truth. "She's going to say my grandfather killed my daddy," he said, visibly shaken for the first time. Gene Kirkpatrick was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, while Michael Norrington faced charges of first-degree murder and burglary. The case against them was strong, with over 300 pieces of evidence and testimony from more than 30 witnesses presented in court. Norrington maintained his innocence, claiming that he had been framed by Gene and that he had only been hired to pick up a car that Gene had purchased on eBay. But the evidence, including the hammer found in the Porsche, the surveillance footage, and the testimony of those who had interacted with Norrington before and after the murder, was overwhelming. In July 2011, after a lengthy trial, Norrington was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jean Kirkpatrick's trial followed shortly after, and he too was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. He was also sentenced to life in prison, where he would spend the rest of his days reflecting on the horrific consequences of his actions. The story of Dr. William Huxley is one of betrayal, obsession, and a cold-blooded plot that destroyed not just one life, but an entire family. His murder left a community in shock, and his young daughter Kennedy was left to grow up without both her parents in the space of just a few short years. At Soralaw, we explore the dark and twisted paths that lead ordinary people to commit extraordinary crimes. If you've been captivated by this tragic tale, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest stories. The case of Dr. William Huxley reminds us that sometimes, the people we trust the most can turn out to be the ones who betray us the deepest. Stay vigilant, and join us next time as we continue to uncover the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows.